Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. I'm Rebecca Lawrence and this is Voices. In this set of interviews, I will be focusing on issues of inclusion, diversity and allyship through intimate conversations with wine industry professionals from all over the globe. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps us cover equipment, production and publication costs, and remember to subscribe and rate our show wherever you tune in. Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast with me, Rebecca Lawrence. Today on Voices, I am so stoked to introduce our listeners to someone who I have long admired, Tahiirah Habibi of Hue Society, Roots Fund, and so much more. Welcome to the podcast, Tahiirah.
Hi, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So I don't really know where to start because you've been really instrumental in the growth and change of the industry, not just for the past couple of years, obviously, whilst you've been in the spotlight, but kind of behind the scenes as well for a long time. So maybe the best place to start is to ask you maybe to introduce yourself to the listeners.
Sure. As you said, my name is Tahiirah Habibi. I am a SOM and the founder of Hue Society. I'm also one of the co-founders of the Roots Fund nonprofit. I've been working in the industry for over 10 years. I started my career at the St. Regis, and I worked at a couple different places in Miami, down there, a lot of leadership roles. And then I just got tired of seeing no one who looked like me, and it was very lonely. So I left the floor and I left the industry, and I really started doing community work, community-centered work, focusing on advocacy and creating access and resources for communities of color, really. It started with the Black community, and I was very focused on that. And then as Hue Society grew, the need grew for other people who were also being marginalized, and I'm never going to turn someone away from community. So the reason why I called it Hue is because we're all different colors. And so, that includes all people of color. It's just, I had to take care of home first. And now we're kind of branching out into the full range.
Wow. You talked about your formative years in Miami. Can you dive a little deeper into what your experience was there? Like you say, you said eventually it wasn't quite the right fit for you. Is that what pushed you to do something like Hue?
Yes and no. I think on some level I've always been an activist. I've always been an advocate for sure. I have a minor in African American studies from Penn State, so it's not like it was just let's start promoting this. But Miami is like its own planet. I don't know if you've ever been or worked there, but Miami is definitely its own planet. And that is where I spent the majority of my career as a SOM, working as a SOM. That's where I spent my working career. That is where my development happened. And I had incredible experience. It was a lot of people don't start their career as their first job at such a high level. So there was a lot of pressure there. And then the pressure of being Black and the pressure of being a woman in this space was intense. But I learned a lot. Me and a friend of mine, Julia, have this joke, I used to drink Opus One and Petrus on Tuesdays for lunch because that was my life. I was around rich, wealthy people who money didn't mean anything to. And I was serving them these super high-end wines. And I learned so much about that's where I learned fine wine, vintages, all of that stuff. And I don't come from money. I come from love. That's it, not money. So, I grew up poor. So this was the contrast was just astounding to me, just watching people just spend money on wine like that. And then the other thing was people were not used to seeing a Black woman as a SOM. And so I would get that all the time. And we had a lot of Europeans who would come into the restaurant because I ended my career at the St. Regis at Jean Georges. And, I've been sent away from tables. People were we don't want you at the table, or what do you know about wine? Or, we want the white guy, or because my counterpart was, he's actually Cuban. No, he's Colombian, but he presents as white. And, they want him. And, it's just all kinds of atrocious things. So it was you're having this experience of your life. You have the job of your life. how else do you enter your career than at that level? But there was a lot of pressure and there was a lot of racism that I had to deal with, overt and, inovert. Like, it was just a lot of biases, and at the time, like I said, people weren't used to not only not seeing a Black Psalm, but they weren't used to seeing a Black woman. And it was just like, what? Like, today, it's a lot different, right? Like, and I feel like the few of us who were working on the floor at that time, like, we normalized having people see that. Like, we had to go through that grunt work, really, in order for people to get used to that. So, so that Psalms today can, still experience some form of racism, just not as much, I guess, And the other thing was, I got tired of the question, like, so it was kind of like the onus was on me, like, oh, since you're a Black Psalm, are there any Black winemakers, or, and it would always be kind of like when I got the question from Black people, it was sincere. It was like, no, seriously, like, do you know any Black winemakers? But when I got it from other people, it was like passive aggressive, like, are there any Black winemakers? Like, tell me everything. Like, quizzing me at tables and stuff. Like, what are all the grapes of Chateauneuf to pop? Like, what? Like, do you want this wine or not? Because it just got to a point where I was never able to be myself. So there was a lot of trauma wrapped in this thing, like, dealing with the racism, dealing with the idea that I couldn't be myself at all. I wasn't allowed to wear my hair a certain ways. I had to dress a certain way. I wasn't allowed to wear my big earrings. Like, my heart was broken, mostly about the earrings. No, I'm kidding. But still, I think that that's violence. I think that code switching and this idea of, is violent. It is very violent. Like, you write these things into policy, and it's very anti-Black. A lot of policies that HR representatives of corporations and organizations write into policy are anti-Black. They don't want you to present as yourself. They want you to come and be a robot for them. They want your talents. They want your skills. They do not want you. And I was just sick of it. And I was done. And then I left the St. Regis. Like, my last straw at the St. Regis was, one of the managers that was like higher up in the hotel calling my braids things and telling me that I couldn't come back to work. And I'm not supposed to have those things in my hair. And I was just like, I'm like done with this. Like, I literally can't. And luckily, one day, the owner of Michael's Genuine, which is another like exceptionally historic restaurant in Miami, happened to come in, and he was really impressed with me. And so they reached out, and I ended up working there. And that was pivotal because it was super geeky. And so I had got this like amazing fine dining, fine wine experience. And now I'm getting like this super geeky, down to like soil types and like really digging into producers and like all of that stuff that I hadn't had before. Like, it was cool, but those people weren't into it. Like, this was like, and so I got a really well-rounded wine experience and education, and I had a really great career, not for nothing. I can't say that I had a great career. I was very privileged, but that privilege did come with a price. It wasn't like most people who were privileged. It's not like white privilege where you're just like, here you go, and there's no trauma that's coming with that. Like, most of the privilege that we get comes with some trauma. But for me, I just found it really important I understood that I had privilege, and I understood that I had power, and I just felt like it was time to redistribute that power. And so I went on to be a wine director, and I opened up a couple places and all of this stuff. But my heart was still in community. And so I ended up quitting. I was just like, I think I might have got fired from my last job, because I think I was just like so fed up at this point with people. I might have got fired because I definitely was just like talking back. Like, I was just talking back.
I'm done with this.
I was done. And I was just being myself. And I was just tired of people telling me that I couldn't be myself, but you wanted my skill set. And I was good at my job. So it was like, you're going to hire me because I'm good at my job, but you're not going to leave these parts of me out. Like, you're not going to, just dismantle my being and my humanity for your benefit. And so I was like, well, I'm actually pretty good at my job. I'm going to take these skills back to my community. So I quit. and I started doing community events. And I was just very focused on Black winemakers. I was focused on Black wine consumers. It was really important for me for us to be able to learn and experience wine through our own experiences and things that we like culturally, through music, through art, through cuisine, which in the wine world doesn't exist. Like, you don't pair wine with soul food. You don't, there's no mac and cheese that you're putting with the wine. Like, you don't try to, no one's trying to hear all of that stuff. So I was like, well, I'm going to normalize it. I'm going to make you hear it. I'm going to make you see it. Like, you're going to pay attention to this. So I started doing events. I did a wine and reggae festival. It was huge. Like 3,000 people showed up. And then, I started doing smaller events, but I always did events through the lens of just Blackness. It was like as Black as I can make it. That's exactly what I was going to do. And you were either going to like it or you weren't going to like it. But I knew who was going to like it. And that was the only people I was focused on. And then I got pregnant and I was like, definitely not raising my child in crazy ass Miami. So I moved to Atlanta and I really wanted to expand upon, my first company was called Sipping Socials. And so I really wanted to expand upon, because at this time, like, we started seeing other Black wine professionals like come out, like, on social media and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, we need a place where we all know where we are. Like, we can gather, we can see each other, we can, build and, just like an umbrella. And so I knew what I wanted. I knew what the concept was. I knew I wanted to open chapters. I knew I wanted to build communities. I just didn't know like what I wanted to call it. And so, when I started thinking about Hue, it was my Jay-Z lyric.
Yeah. I wanted to reference that because I just think that's brilliant.
He's like, what's better than one billionaire? Because that's what it was. It's about building wealth. So I was like, he's like, what's better than one billionaire? Two, especially if they're the same hue as you. And I was like, that is exactly right. That's 100% correct. And so, Hue Society, and I wanted it to be a society because, like I said, it's meant to be chapters. It's meant to be like this big thing. And so, and plus, it's a double entendre. Like, there are different hues of wine. So, it was just perfect. And when I got to Atlanta, I tried to move to the Blackest city I could find. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna build this organization. I'm gonna move here, and I did. I moved to Atlanta. I think it's 3 years now. It's 2017. That's the same year that Hue Society was born. But everybody thinks like Hue Society is like this new thing. It's like, no, I was doing this before Hue Society. I just rebranded and expanded the work that I was already doing for a few years. So it's not, technically, yes, from a business license perspective, it is new, but it's not really like new.
I wanted to ask about the decision to have, like you say, the chapters and the local teams with mentors. Why particularly did you want to go for that kind of model?
Because I know that we needed to be in community with each other. And I'm very particular about what that community looks like and who has access to it. We don't have anything like that. We never had anything like that where we could just come and be ourselves 100%. And I also knew that every city is different. Like, and Black people take a lot of pride in their cities, like very seriously. And I knew every city was different, and I knew that every city needed something different. And with the way the wine laws work here, every state is different. So I knew I needed to have people in the states that could provide resources and create access for inner city. Like, it's not just the people who work in wine. This is about like people from the community. So in the chapters, we have doctors and lawyers who love wine and they want working knowledge and stuff like that. But I needed to make sure that it was accessible, and access looks different to everybody depending on which community you're in, or which state or which city. So it was never about me. I wanted them to have the autonomy to build their own thing. Like, I had built up this organization, and I was like, okay, well, it's time to kind of start redistributing that power and those resources. So, but I don't have to do it. They can do it themselves. Like, you decide what works for you, what looks good to you, what feels good to you in that particular segment of the community. And so New York is very different from Atlanta, which is very different from California. Like, those communities all need different things. And so I thought that it was really important to make sure like that I was speaking to the people and giving the power to the people, which is the issue with the wine industry. Like, no one wants to give the power to the people. Everybody wants to like hoard power and resources because everybody wants to be the only one in the room. Everybody wants to be the top dog. Everybody wants, and it's just like, I don't need to be any of those things. I already am those things. I'm fine. I don't need to, and no one can take that away from me, right? Like I built that up on my own. So I know like the risk that I take when I do stuff, but no one can do anything to me. So I don't work for anybody else. Like I don't have ties to like people and organizations where like, you can't say that or you can't do this, like none of that. And that's a sense of freedom that I want everybody to feel. At least when you come to this space, you should be able to feel like that. You should be able to say and dress and be yourself 100%, whatever that means to you. So it was just really important to me that autonomy was there for the people who were joining in this journey with me.
I think that's like, it's one of the things that has really impressed me about Hue Society, because you basically took all of the stuff that you had to deal with in your career, this idea of like not being able to have your identity, and put that into action, right down to, like you say, the recognition of the fact that what the needs of New York are not going to be the needs of Atlanta. And the needs of an inner city community are going to be different to the needs of a suburban community. And like to see that demonstrated in the wine industry through a society, it's just not something anyone else has done. It's not something anyone else has recognized. Like you look at wine education or wine groups, wine clubs, and it's all done in the same way wherever it's franchised. And I really love that you've just gone, what? Why? We don't have to do that. Like that's not how the world works. Why is it how stuff in wine should work? So it's been super, super inspiring. So obviously talking about like being a community, and a lot of that is being in person and in-person interactions. How have you adapted because the last year and a half must have been pretty tough for that side of things, particularly as, having built a lot of this based on the events, very much in person with a, community focus. So how have you,
Well, I tabled the events last year. I didn't do any events. I had a ton of events planned, let me tell you. Like my schedule was packed from March through, I think, like the end of September, like every week, like packed. And then boom, it was it. And I was like, okay, well, here we are. So I actually launched the chapters during that time. Like I took time to launch the chapters and I did it virtually. And I thought that was important because we definitely needed to be together. And also I knew that we would be able to do this virtually within little segments of each other, right? So I took my time and launched the different chapters, and they do virtual tasting. So, they create kits and you go pick up your kit, you get on the screen and whatever. We also do national tastings. So, we do national programming. So some things, all the chapters come together for, we do seminars, we do national tastings, we do speaking engagements, like that kind of stuff as well. So we are still programming virtually. It's just not all together. But in August, all of that changes because big Hue Society weekends coming up. And, I'm bringing back the Roses and Rosé Awards brunch, which is the only awards brunch that focuses on people of color, right? We're doing the Black wine experience where, it's all Black wine tastings, importers and distributors. We're doing an event called Rice, and it's about pairing food from a cultural perspective, because rice is one of the foods that almost every culture cooks, but they all cook it differently. And so we're doing an event of that and pairing different wines with rice from different cultures, and having a discussion on it. And we're doing fun stuff. We're doing savoring competitions and Perron challenges and blind tasting. So it's only been a weekend in Atlanta, and super excited about that. Like we're back. It's time. Like I'm doing a cookout, like a midnight cookout. Like it's time. It's go time for sure. And the other thing is the chapters, while they are Black centered, Hue Society was never about excluding anybody. It was about creating an inclusive space for ourselves to see ourselves as ourselves. So, New York is opening back up. They just opened up their chapter application. They got a ton of applications. And yeah, there will be non-Black people, people of color. There will be white people in the chapters. But the thing is, what you do is you invert the power structure and you put it on its head. And you guys had the chance to do this and you saw what you did with it. So, you know that you're coming into our space and what that looks like and what that feels like. And it's always welcoming. We don't, it's never like these barriers. We don't create barriers for other people. And so I think that that's really pivotal because that you're coming into a Black centered space and we feel comfortable, right? Like we don't have to change ourselves. If you want to change because you come in this space, we don't recommend it, but that's no one's pushing you to do that. So it's different, and yeah, there'll be that. It's going to be what the wine industry should look like everybody, but unabusive and untraumatizing and, violent.
Yeah, open and supportive and loving and creative is what we need the industry to be. And that's how I think we're going to re-energize the industry as well, because I feel like there's been historically, there's a huge swathe of people that have just been excluded from the industry who could be welcomed into it and enjoy the wines and enjoy the culture. It's from a business perspective, there's this whole group of people that no one's been marketing to and talking to, and that's just so wrong. It should be this open space. Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's stupid. It doesn't make financial sense either.
Yeah. So I want to touch a little bit also on the Roots Fund, because obviously you're involved in that as well. And you have been partnering Hue Society with Roots Fund recently, I understand. So dive into Roots Fund a little bit and the work you've been doing with them.
So Roots Fund was born out of the need. So Hue Society is the community. Roots Fund is taking that community to the next level. So, if you're part of the community, you have interest in wine, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times the barriers are that you don't have the money to pay for these tests. You don't have the money to travel to these tests, or study or buy wine that is going to help develop your palate and all of that stuff. So Roots is creating pathways. It's all about creating pathways and financing pathways for communities of color to get into the wine space and whatever that means to you. And I think that we're different because we don't specify what that looks like. We're not oh, you can only do this test, or we're giving you scholarships to this program, or whatever. If you're going to community college, we will pay for, if you want to take a business course in wine, we will pay for that. If you need money to travel to your test, we will pay for that. If you need help with relocation, we will pay for that. We give scholarships for everything as long as it's wine related, and, you need the money to help facilitate your career. We're going to help you, because that is how you create diversity. That is real diversity. It's not this, I'm checking a box. I got this many Black and brown people. I'm going to bring them into this broken ass system. And, that's diverse. That's not diversity. We're creating and eliminating barriers for people. So that's the main work. And we're doing the work. We're sending people to France. We will have so many enrichment trips for people who never even thought about leaving their neighborhoods. We've moved people across the country to be able to work wine jobs when they would have never been able to. We do job placements and internship placements, everything. I mean, what you need, we do it. And that's why Roots Fund is so important. And funding stuff like that is so important, because how else do you get people to where they need to go? People need a jump start. Or, people need experience. People need to be able to, and you complain about you have to have this much experience, but you're not giving somebody an opportunity to get the experience. So we did all of that. We make sure that you're good, from beginning to end, whatever that means, whatever you need, we definitely will provide that.
I really love that Roots Fund are doing it, like you say, there's no specification of like, okay, well, we'll only give you the money to do your WSET level 3. Because people forget, I think, particularly if you're at a certain level involved in the industry, which can be very insular, that like it's not just the course that costs the money. It's traveling to the course, it's buying the wine for the course, it's maybe getting the textbook, it's all of that stuff. And then maybe that's not your path. Maybe, like you say, you actually want to go into business, but you're really into wine, or you want to go into marketing, or you want to work in a winery, but no one talks about how difficult access is for all of that. It's not just access to quote unquote education. It's at every single level. Like maybe you just need help buying the suit that's going to get you the job interview. All of that stuff is privilege and access at there's every single door is shut in people's faces. It just drives me nuts. I could rant. I have been ranting about this with a lot of people. And we're talking about access to thinking about food and the way that wine has been very exclusive in food. I was talking to Jade Marley recently, who is another woman I love, about and we were having this great conversation about the fact that Italian wine pairs so well with lots of different types of food, and we just need to expand the classic views about what food and wine pairing is, because food and wine pairing is literally just taking a bottle of wine and drinking it with food. That's it.
Right. And people ask me that, what's a good wine pair? I'm like, what do you like to drink? The first rule is, does it taste good to you? If it tastes good, then drink it.
Just open it. No judgment. If you like it, the pairing's done. So I want to talk, before we talk about your amazing cover on Wine Enthusiast, because I do want to dive into that, but I want to continue with some talk about how you've made changes in the industry, because obviously you did have a slightly infamous and viral posting about the quota sommeliers. And whilst I don't want to dive specifically into that, because I know you've talked a lot about it on a lot of places, what I did want to talk about is language in the wine industry, because you brought up this really amazing point about the importance of language and inclusive language, and maybe people recognizing that they have these biases that they don't realize exist, and that expresses itself in language and how damaging and how violent this can be. And I'm kind of hyper aware of this. I'm an educator and a communicator, and I'm really aware that maybe I have biases as well that I am expressing and don't even realize it, because maybe I don't have someone in the room who's brave enough to call me out on it. So I wanted to ask how you think the industry should be reapproaching language.
I think language is a barrier on multiple levels, because, we talk about professionalism, which is really just another form of privilege and supremacy masking itself. Because, take African American vernacular, for example, it's enjoyable when you feel like it, but we have to change it when you feel like it, right? But a lot of these terms, a lot of these words, they, we shape that kind of culture. But until it becomes acceptable to white people, it's unacceptable. It's ghetto. And I say this all the time, it's always ghetto until it's appropriated. So when you appropriate the language, then it becomes acceptable. And I'm just like, no, why do, and it's not even just obviously not Black people. It's, when you talk about Latin people and accents and all of that kind of stuff, people literally study to change their accent and to rid their accent. Anybody who's not European, by the way.
That's really interesting, because I have deliberately changed my accent, because this is not the accent I grew up in. Because I grew up in a very rough northeastern town with an accent that was basically unacceptable for jobs and academic access in London. So I did exactly that. It even happens in the UK, like, and that's crazy.
Yeah, it does. But that's the thing. White people can experience white supremacy too. Like white supremacy is a system. It's not about white people. It's about systems. And so when you talk about systems, one of the things that's embedded in that is language, which is, but it's very intentional towards marginalized communities though. Like that's how they keep you out. You're not professional enough. Those are barriers, but they also don't give you resources to adjust to what they consider professional. And so it's like this backhanded slap in the face twice. Like, I can't be myself. You're not going to give me the resources to be who you want me to be. So what exactly is it you want me to do here? I just think it's so violent. Like, and also, excluding words or words that you don't understand, like name pronunciations, like Phoebe don't look shit like Phoebe is spelled. You could pronounce that though, but anybody else's name who's not white sounding, Sarah, Megan, like these kind of things, you make it seem like it's so difficult to try and figure out how to pronounce their name. No, correct them every time. Like, we have to stop buying into these systems. Like, you're not allowed to talk a certain way on the floor, or, like all of those biases, like, that's a Black word. You're talking white. It's great. Like, it's crazy to me, but we have to stop buying into these systems. Like, I'm not adjusting the way I talk. I've done it in years. I'm not adjusting the way. If I feel like cussing, I'm going to cuss.
And also, like you say, this idea of quote unquote using professionalism as basically a tool for, like you say, racism and exclusion is just so unacceptable. Like, and also it's so cultural, because what is, professional in one community is not going to be the same in another. So we can't just like put a blanket over it and say it's all one thing. Yeah.
But that's what white supremacy is. That's how it manifests itself. They want you to be one thing. You have to look one way. You have to, man.
It's so messed up. So sad. So let's talk about something amazing, because I really want to talk about your cover for Wine Enthusiast 40 Under 40, because you were given pride of place and had, as I understand it, a Zoom photo shoot, which must be crazy at the best of times, and obviously robbed of an award ceremony. But your decision for the setting, I assume that was yours, because it's such a powerful cover. I'm hoping that we can find it to share in the social. So how did you choose that particular design?
So they had emailed us about being chosen to be on the list prior to like the George Floyd thing, the civil rights movement that was going to happen. And when they emailed me, I was like, okay, so if I'm going to do this, I'm either going to get the cover or I'm not going to do it. And that was my thought process going into it. So I really just wanted to represent all the things that I stand for and what was important to me. And I shot this, I'm pretty sure I shot this before, I can't remember if I shot it before George Floyd or not. I think so. But it was just really important because I wanted everything. Like, the wine in the glass was Black. My makeup was from Black people. The dress was a Black designer. The tablet says Juneteenth. Like, I wanted to represent Blackness. And it is kind of like reminiscent of like the Statue of Liberty. Like, it was just fully liberation. And that is how I feel the most liberated, like in my skin, with my people. And I'm just trying to free some people. And that's exactly what I went for. And I was just like, this is definitely going to be a little political for them. So they're either going to put me on a cover or they're going to kick me out. And I had to come to terms with and be okay with either one of them. And I was like, I'm all right with either one. Like, if you decide this is too much for you, that's fine. I won't do it. Like, I literally just won't be involved in the thing. I'm not changing it though. So I didn't really give them an option. I didn't say these things to them. I kind of just showed up. I chose a place that I was like, okay, what looks like I would be standing like the Statue of Liberty. I was very intentional about like everything, like super intentional. I knew exactly how I wanted it to look. I knew what I wanted it to feel like. I knew, and I had to shoot it twice, weeks apart. Yeah. So the first time I shot it, it was in the sweltering sun, like sweltering. Like it looks like I'm glistening from, I'm glowing on that cover. That's sweat. And then I had to shoot it in the rain. It was raining because they said they didn't feel like, they felt like the sun shots were too bright. So they asked me to shoot it again, and the day we chose to shoot it. And the second time I had to have my daughter there, and the street that we shot it on is like this super busy street. And so, you know, at all times, I got like one eye looking at my daughter to make sure she doesn't run the street, because she was 3 at the time, you know, making sure she doesn't go in the street. And, you know, and then I am in the rain trying to pretend like it's not raining, which is the first time, you know, it was hot and I was baking, but my daughter wasn't there, so I could concentrate a little bit more. But the second time, yeah, it was a lot. It wasn't, and you know, you have this phone, and they're trying to, you know, take pictures of you through the phone, through Zoom, and you hear, like, you can kind of hear the camera clicking, but you don't know if they're actually taking pictures. And I'm just like, it was a lot. It took a lot to get that cover. And I knew, like, I was like, I'm not going to. At the time, I didn't know that I would have been the first Black woman, which is like, yay, but really?
Also, what? Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know. So when I went to shoot it, I didn't know I would be the first Black woman. And then I realized it, like, after. I just kept telling my friends, because we weren't supposed to tell anybody. So the 2 or 3 people that I did tell, I just told them, like, yo, I'm going to get this cover. Like, I'm going for the cover. Like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going for the cover. They're just like, you're crazy. I'm like, no. I mean, aim high. Why not?
Yeah. And also, like, it made the cover, and it made all the statements that you wanted to make. Like, I think it's because it's so striking, and like you say, it's got all of the power, but also the politics involved. So yeah, I was very, very pleased to see that you made the cover. So we're running out of time. The producers are going to kill me for running over. I do this all the time. It's like, it's just such a good conversation. So I need to ask you about actual wine, obviously, and it is the Italian wine podcast. So I should probably ask you about some Italian wine. And I know you do have a particular affinity for Pinot Noir, but I wondered actually if there is maybe a particular Italian wine that's your go-to, if you have a favorite, if there's something you reach for.
I love Nero. Love. I think it's just so underrated. And the thing is, it's so affordable, but also I haven't had a producer that was bad. Like, I haven't had a bad Nero. I've had a bad Pinot before, but I've never had a bad Nero. And I love a good Barbera. I think that, you know, Barberas are like, to me, they're like the Italian Pinots. Like, obviously, Pinots are Italian, Pinot Noirs are Italian Pinot Noirs, but they kind of serve like that same purpose in the sense of, you know, they're food wines, but they're also easily to drink. And Italian wine, like, obviously, in the last couple of years, they've calmed down a little bit and they're more approachable early on. But Italian wines, you know, when I was coming up, was like, yeah, wait a few years to drink that. So I had this affinity for Barbera because I could just drink it. Like, it didn't have to wait, or was it like 50 years old or 20 years old? Like, you know, like I have some some Barbarescos and Barolos in there that are older, and I still don't know if I should drink them.
Yeah. It's interesting, actually, because a couple of guests that I've asked this question to have also said Barbera, and I think it's a really underappreciated variety because, like you say, you can enjoy it with food, no problem, but you can approach it. It can be approached young, or you can have varieties that winemakers are doing it so you can age it. Like, it's just such a great all-round choice. And yeah, Nero, my God, so good. That kick of spice in it just nails it for me.
It's the best, man. It's like, yeah, you definitely live up to your little name, little spicy black grape.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's the perfect one for you. The little spicy little black grape. It's great. Tahiirah, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation on the Italian Wine Podcast today. Where can our listeners find you, Hue Society Roots Fund, online and on social media?
Yeah, so Hue Society on social media is at the Hue Society on all social media. The Roots Fund is the Roots Fund, yeah, I think on all social media as well. And the Roots Fund, like if you want to donate and continue this work, is www.therootsfund.org. We're always looking for mentors and donations and, help. And in the Roots in Hue Society is www.thehuesociety.com.
Okay, I really encourage our listeners to go to Hue Society and the Roots Fund's website, see the amazing work that Tahiirah and her colleagues are doing. I mean, seriously, it's going to blow you away. Thanks everyone for listening. Don't forget to follow us on social media, subscribe, and of course, you can donate on our website to make sure we can continue to bring these great conversations to you. Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, Cin Cin.